Hello there, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today. And I have to tell you, I know how weird it can be to come into a situation like this and talk about something like the word bossy. But what I'd want to do is ask you all, as we get started, have an open mind and interact with me in this process. This might be a little bit different than other workshops that you've done, but what I'm going to ask you to do is work with me in walking through this journey. So what that means is I'm going to be asking you questions. I'm going to get you active. I'd like you to unmute whenever you have something to say. And I also wanted to let you know, I'm going to try to give you a ton of information and we don't have a lot of time. So we may have more people that are ready to talk or want to talk, and I might have to move us through, but I'll give you heads up on that. So that's a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The other bit of housekeeping I need everyone to do, if you don't have a pencil and paper or a pen and paper in front of you, if you would get one now, that would be great. We're going to use it in just a second. I'll give you 10 seconds or so to grab that, and we will go from there. Also, if you had something that you want to say as we move forward and you didn't get to say it out loud, I'll ask you to put it in the chat as well, and I will try to stay up to date on what's being put in there. We have 20 people. That's awesome. I was going to play music for you as we got started. That's why that says listen to the words. It didn't happen that way. That's all fine. So now that you have your pen and paper, this is what I'd like each one of you to do. Draw this chart in red that's on your screen on your piece of paper. So basically an X on the left side, right leader, on the right side, right adjective. And now what I'm going to ask you to do is just shut your eyes for a moment. And I'd like you to think about somebody that you would be willing to follow. And let me describe what that means for you, just a moment. Not that you don't know, but I just want you to know exactly the person I'm trying to get you to pull from your mind. I want you to think about the leader that if they said, we're going to the right, and you believed it was left, you would go right anyway. I want you to think about the leader that when they say, trust me, jump, you would do it, knowing that you could be at risk. When you think about this leader, this is the person that you would trust, knowing that your own life could be in danger. Who is that? Write those names down on the left side of your paper. I'm going to give you about 1.5 minutes to do that. As you're writing those names on your piece of paper, what I'd like you to think about, if you had to come up with one word that you would say is the defining characteristic of this person in your life, what would you say that word is? And I want you to write that in the corresponding block to the right of their name. One defining leadership characteristic. What would that be?
What's that? Good. Yeah. That's what you do on the testing, correct? Yeah. As we're talking, I'm starting to grasp up into that.
Now, I'm going to make this even harder. And I'm going to ask you about this in a moment. Now, I'd like you to cross out everyone that you wrote on that list that's a man. Bridget says, ooh, I get it. I did that too. Oh, shoot. But this is Lead Her Ship Global. So this is where we're going. Cross out everyone that's a man. And I wanted to just say to you all too, it's interesting because When we're talking about an issue like women and the word bossy, it would seem odd that there would be men involved or that we'd be including them or that kind of thing. But let me tell you something. One of the most important things that we can do as strong women leaders is include men in the conversations that are really talking about how to be our ally and how to grow in leadership. We can all do this together. We're building bridges. Nobody's excluded. Bridget, it was only one. I totally get it. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you would be willing, unmute yourself and share with me a few of the words that you listed on the right-hand side.
I listed experienced for one person, trustworthy and wise.
Awesome, Robin. That's great. Give me some more.
I listed authentic and transparent.
Authentic and transparent. I think that was Brittany. Awesome. Thank you. Who else?
Yeah, I have knowledge, integrity, and boldness.
Oh, knowledge, integrity, boldness. I love that.
Hi. My name,
Hello.
yeah, I have listed makes things happen and never gives up.
Makes things happen, never gives up. Oh, I love it. Yes. Would anybody else like to share?
I had all in.
All in. I love that. Is that Amanda?
It is.
I love you, girl. Very good. All in. Okay, now let me ask you, what do these words that you all just shared, what do they have in common? They're powerful, Brittany says. Good. What else?
They're inspiring.
They're
Like
inspiring.
everybody gets inspired from them for our own
Yes.
reasons.
Yes, we get inspired from our own reasons. We all work from a different place, have different filters. So different things inspire us, but they're all inspiring. Awesome. Good. What else? Give me one more. Positive, Bridget says. Good. Awesome. Let me ask you, how many of them would be described as weak, wishy-washy, not willing to take a stand? It's really odd, right? When you're talking about the word bossy, we so often see it as very, very negative. In reality, the word bossy is used to describe women who lead. The women who you wrote on that list, I'm betting may fall into some of the discussion that we're going to talk about in just a moment. I promise you we're going to come back to this list, hold on to it, but for now, just hold on to it. Now, when we're talking about bossy, one thing, if any of you know me, you know I like to get real. I like to be real. I like to talk real. I like to talk what is really, really true. Even if it's ugly, even if we don't like to look at it, that's what I want to do. So when you hear the word bossy, tell me what that means to you. Give me some feedback here. What is bossy about? The bossy you know. Oops, sorry about that. What is it? You won't offend me. Taking a stance. Good. What else? Being tough. Good. What else?
Very direct.
Very direct. Tell me, can you tell me more about that, Christy? Like, what kind of direct? It's okay.
Yeah, it's their way.
It's their way or no way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. What else? Any other thoughts about that?
Brittany said rude, demanding. Robin said it's negative, pushy. Adam said pushy.
Pushy, no nonsense. Can I show you all something? And I'm hoping you might enjoy it as much as I do. Let me show you this. I Googled the word bossy just yesterday when I was putting this together for you because I wanted to give you something a little bit interesting to look at. When I Googled the word bossy, these were some of the articles that came up on Google. And I'm not talking 20 pages down. I'm talking when you Google the word bossy and you look at the articles that come up, these are the things that you would see right now. How do these make you feel? What do you think when you see that? Even one of them, I couldn't put it here, but it said crazy women.
So it feels negative to me because I have a total different perception or definition for myself about being bossy. For me, it's much more taking a stance and also being vulnerable for what I'm standing for. Yeah, for who I am, how I show myself to the world.
Yes.
That's my perception on it.
Beautiful. It's taking a stance and being vulnerable about what's important to you. And really, as Linda said when we started this, it's your purpose living out loud. Obviously, you guys can see that I probably agree with Bridget wholeheartedly in that. But let's be real. Whenever we talk about somebody and we call them bossy, is that the way we're typically using the word?
No, it's always in a negative manner.
Always in a negative manner.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Somebody else was about to say something.
Yeah, it's always taken down as, being negative attribute. And if you want to bring somebody down, especially a woman, then you call them a bossy person.
Oh my gosh, you couldn't be more right. And it is actually oftentimes, I believe, a word of warfare against women in leadership, because so often as we grew, when we would lead, we were called bossy. And we knew that was bad. That meant I am rude, I am pushy, I don't care about anybody else. I'm going to push my agenda regardless of what anybody else thinks, right? And what happened for me is throughout my life, I was always called bossy. I was the bossy girl. And I have to tell you also, you guys have met Linda. Amazing, brilliant, polished. Can I tell you what happened? We had our first meeting and she did this incredible personality assessment that's probably, I've done them all, and it was one of the ones that I would say was most beneficial that I've ever done. But you know what it said? It said I was bossy. And it didn't use those words. It used words like brash or direct or those kinds of words, right? And what happened for me is, and what always happens for me is, wow, am I really that bad? I don't ever want to hurt anybody. What do I do with this? How do I move forward? How do I handle this perception that the world has of my circumstances? What I'd like to do now is tell you a story. So what you see here, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, what do you see in this picture? And you can be honest.
A woman who has clearly had a very rough day, experiencing some medical trauma, who strangely looks super fabulous doing it.
I'm going to talk on that for a second, just because you said it, Brittany. I love that. Good. What else do you see?
I see an amazing looking woman who is in the middle of some what could be very serious medical tests, because I, as a teenager, had an EEG done, and that those electrodes on her head make me think very much of what that experience was like. And you don't go through that kind of test without some fear. I was 16 at the time, and there's a lot of weight around this picture.
Tell me more. Everybody, Marilyn, that was beautiful. And I'm almost ready to cry already. So yes to all of that. What else do you guys see?
Well, I think she is trying to manage her time also. She's on the go, but at the same time, she's just checking and measuring her stress level or some kind of this particular test what she is doing. So that's what I read from this.
Beautiful. Adam, you're making me laugh. EKG in the car. Interesting. Beautiful. Could be a fitness test. Awesome. Let me tell you what this is. This is me. This picture is me, if you didn't know that. And that is a picture of me almost 5 years to the day. On November 16th, 2016, I was in a horrific car accident. I was on my way to work. I was stopped at a red light and I was hit from behind by a truck at 55 miles an hour. I sustained a traumatic brain injury. And at the time, I was a single mom of a 9-year-old little girl. And I could no longer read and write properly. I was having seizures. I was falling down the steps. Literally every day, it was a question, was my brain bleeding? Why wasn't I getting better? There are people that are here on the call that saw me walk through that journey. And I'll tell you what I see when I look at this. What I see is an emptiness. Because in this moment, I had no idea if I would ever be able to support my family again. What happened after this is that I spent a 1.5 years where I was unable to work, where I was going through rehab. This EKG in the car is because I was wearing this 24/7. And if you can see, I had over 30 of those, I forget what they're called right now, things stuck in my head. And that black thing with a zipper coming out of the back of my head, that was holding the massive cords that were attached into my head, along with all, and you can see also all down my body. And I had to try to raise my 9-year-old little girl with her seeing me like that. And I would try to put my makeup on and smile because I knew she needed me. I couldn't drive. I could barely walk sometimes. And I was unable to have a coherent conversation. And let me tell you what happened. So I went to the doctor, all of the doctors, because at the time I had spent years as a successful speaker and consultant in teaching servant leadership for the government. Electrodes, Marilyn, you're right. Thank you. Working for the government. And suddenly I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even get groceries without having a seizure in the parking lot. And what happened then is I went through the testing with the neurologist that ended up telling me that I was now at the 30th percentile in my intellectual ability, and that I should be satisfied with that growth, and that that's good enough. And he told me that was good enough, and I was supposed to accept it. After I told him to go straight to hell, he told me I was bossy. And in that moment, I knew, thank you, Marilyn, I knew in that moment that I was put on this earth and I was to walk this journey to redefine the word bossy for everyone whose light had been put out because it was used against them. And I now walk this path for you and for my daughters, that I know every time this word is used against them, they'll be a little bit more quiet. They'll shine a little less. They'll push a little softer. And I don't want that for them, because I know if I wasn't the bossy girl, I would still be on my couch accepting that I just can't read anymore. If I wasn't the bossy girl, I would still be sitting in the dark room they put me in with coloring books and coloring without screens or light for the rest of my life. No way. That's not how I'm going to live. And it's not how I want you to live. So I told you, my purpose. I want to hear what you guys are saying in the chat. In general, doctors have God complexes and don't. You are so right. They do not like to be told that they are wrong, and they often are. Yes. And what's true, and you guys can see this slide here. What I did is I created Bossy Girl leadership in those moments, with my mom walking beside me as I cried, where I couldn't even figure out how to use a computer anymore. And I redefined the word bossy. And what happened is what you see on this screen. Bossy, the old bossy, is everything you guys told me. It's everything that comes up whenever you Google that word. It's all of those things that we're subjected to, even as little girls that are strong, when we're told, you know, you're just a little too bossy. That's in black, the small b. The Bossy Girl's definition of bossy, that's on the left. Courageous love in action. And this is why I'm here today. Because I'm betting you, if you look back at the list that you made when we got started, you all picked a defining characteristic. You picked things like authenticity, oh my gosh, an authority. That's the word I was looking for. This still happens to me sometimes. I had a really bad stutter when this happened, but I'm getting better. But you listed all kinds of very powerful words to describe the women leaders on your list. I bet you that you could replace any one of those words with that definition that you see there in red. The individuals, and I don't care if they're male or female or non-binary, I don't care. If you are courageous, love, and action, people will follow you to the ends of the earth. People know that you will do what's right for them before you do what's right for you, because they trust you. One of you even said trustworthy. That's it. That's courageous love in action. And my question for you is, are you bossy or are you bossy? And there's a difference. So now what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about, I think it's really important. It's one thing to say that I'm here to redefine bossy and you should just take my word for it. But more than that, what do we do about it? Because this is also true. You all know women and men in your life that are bossy with a little b. And you might be leading some of those people. They might be your 3-year-old like mine. Or it might be your staff person that's incredibly difficult. Or it could be any number of people in your world. What do you do about it? And what do you do about it if it's you? Because let me be very, very clear. Oh, Adam, 3-year-olds, it is not for the faint of heart. Let me be very clear. Being bossy, I am in no way giving license for rudeness, for being a bitch. I am no way giving you permission to be unkind. Being bossy means having a mission. You know what you are meant to do and you will do it. Not on the backs of others, but you will do what it takes to move your mission forward. And there's one thing that is the difference between bossy, little b bossy, and big B bossy. Who is it about? Let me explain. when you're talking about bossy, if you are pushing someone, if you are leading someone, if you are directing someone, and it's for your benefit, you are wrong. That is not big B bossy. That is not courageous love in action. And that is not what the women on your list that you wrote on your paper when we started are about. That's not it. If you are doing it for you, that's not it. Now, on the other hand, if you are pushing someone, possibly even hurting them, and it's for their benefit, that's courageous love in action. Let me explain. I'll give you an example. In the not too distant past, before my car accident, I was the training officer of the largest human services agency in the nation. I was responsible for the training of 16,000 employees, and I had a staff. And don't ask me to explain this, but I had an individual on staff who came to me and was afraid of public speaking. We're the training department. Public speaking is what we do. So this was an interesting choice for his professional career. But I saw it this way. He chose this. Clearly, he wants to move in this direction. And after spending probably at least 6 months with him, working with him and showing him the ins and outs of public speaking, giving him every tool, giving him the opportunity to speak to me, to the rest of the staff, getting feedback, it was time for him to go on. He hated me. And I probably don't have to tell you a whole lot more about that story, because you all know public speaking in the United States is a fear worse than death for most. And I looked at him and I said, I don't care. I know you're afraid. You're going to do it anyway. But let me say this. Nothing about that felt good to me. I wasn't doing this to help me. I was doing this to make him better tomorrow than he is today. That is big B bossy. That is courageous love in action. Being willing to do what's hard because it is what is right. And that's why I have that big red circle. It's not all about you. If you're leading and if you want to be the person that others will follow through the depths of hell, make it about them. Do what's best for your people always. That's what leadership is about. And when you're leading from that place, understand one of the biggest dilemmas that women in leadership face, and through all of my research with my thesis, through talking to women of influence, they tell me, but Kristal, this is the thing though. If I'm strong, people don't like me. But if I'm quiet, people won't follow. Well, listen, here's the solution. And I hate to say it's easy, it's not. But this is the solution. If you are doing the right thing for the right reason for your people, if they don't like you, get over it. It's not about you. If they don't like you, they'll get over it too, because you're doing the right thing for the right reasons for your people. Lead with confidence. If they call you bossy, tell them thank you. Don't dull your shine. You all can do this. It's an amazing place to be. Also, when you create alignment with who you are, and another quick story is after my car accident and after all of those challenges that I faced, I decided the only way I would ever get better is to take this into my own hands. I ended up enrolling for my MBA, and I struggled a lot. And I was with some of the smartest professors in the nation, and almost every one of them told me, if you call yourself the bossy girl, it is career suicide. Do not do it. And they'd say to me things like, Kristal, why do you do this to yourself? You're not bossy. And I would be offended. I am so bossy. Yes, I am bossy. Because I want people to understand I'm on a mission. And I'm so sorry. You'll see I'm very tenderhearted. I'm about to cry. But I have to make this world a better place for my daughters and for you. We're in this together. And if we can do this right, if we can lead with courageous love and action, we can make a difference. With platforms like Linda's, with Leadership Global, we can make a difference. You can make a difference together. So I created alignment inside myself. So even when the smartest people I knew, and I one more thing, just because it makes me laugh, even my father to this day will not say bossy girl leadership. Let me tell you, but he's proud of me and he loves me because I'm doing what I was meant to do. And my question for you is, if I really, really, really knew you, what would I know that you are made to do? And I want you to get your piece of paper again and pull it out. And I want you to take a moment. If you really, really knew me, if you really, really knew me, Kristal, you would know that I was made to. And I need you to fill in the blank. If you really, really knew me, and I want you to dig deep, and I'm going to be quiet for just a moment. I'm really just going to read your chats for a moment, and I want you to answer this question, and I want you to write it down. You all are making me smile with your chats. Please don't stop interacting with me. I love it. It's awesome. Now, some of you might be sitting there and looking at your paper and saying, I don't know. I don't know what I was made to do. And that's okay. And some of you might be saying, I know what I was made to do, but I don't know how to get there. And that's okay too. What I've decided to do today, this is actually the first time that I have shared this in a public way. I wrote a book about my story that I've shared with you. It isn't published yet. I'm hopeful. I'm still deciding on the publisher, so that's going to be a minute, but we'll figure it out. But I wrote a book about my story, and I wrote a book about how we can create our own destinies, knowing our purpose, understanding ourselves, and living out our true selves with confidence. So I believe that if you want to truly feel that you're living your purpose every day, you have to make 4 choices. And I'm not going to be able to go real deep into these 4 choices. I probably will just be able to share them with you. But I want to share them with you. Thank you, Adam. I might check in with you later. The first choice, and these go in order, just so you know. And again, these are all based on my journey. So, courage. Everything, I believe everything starts with doing the right thing in the face of fear. If there is no fear, there is no such thing as courage. People will tell me all the time, Kristal, I'm bold, I'm strong, I've got this. Okay, where's your adversity? What are you afraid of? Nothing? Okay, well, then it's not courage. Courage is required when you're scared. And oftentimes, if you want to live a future of purpose, you will be scared. And that's okay. That never hurt anybody. Authenticity, your unique fingerprint of attributes. This is where we don't try to make ourselves anything that we're not supposed to be. I will never be an accountant. And quite frankly, anything where I have to consume large amounts of information anymore is impossible for me. I need to accept that, know who I am, go after that. We talk about that in the book. Grace, being real. My greatest strength on this list is courage. That's why I'm the bossy girl. And that's why oftentimes people are a little confused by me. My biggest weakness on this list, grace. Oftentimes, judgment gets in our way of the elegance that we can create in the world through grace. The non-judgmental acceptance of what is real. There are people who do this really well. One of them is on this call with us right now, and I look to her every day to grow in grace. She's got beautiful blonde hair, if you see her, and a green wall behind her. And the last one is love. And this is placing others' needs before personal desires. And when we're talking about love, in all actuality, what we're really talking about is leadership. If you want to lead somebody, if people aren't following you, you aren't loving them. If you want them to follow, you have to love. People get squeamish about this word. I don't get squeamish about words anymore. I call myself the bossy girl, right? Let's talk real. Love them. Don't be afraid of it. Love them. Okay, so my next question, and I am trying to, I see what time it is. I'm trying to get there. Linda will keep me on task. Why should I follow you? And get your pen and paper out again. My question is this: should I follow you? Are you a person that should be followed? Are you loving your people selflessly? Who are you? Really ask yourself that question. The next question: where are we going? You can't lead me anywhere if you don't know where we're going. You have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, they might follow you at first, but it won't continue. Next question: who helps you really, really look in the mirror? I hope you know what I mean by that. Who is the person who will tell you when you're ugly? Oh dear. Who is the person who will tell you that you're wrong? Be real about loving that person because they're loving you. Next question. I told you, oh, Christy, your husband, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That makes me so smiley. Thank you. My next question is, what is your greatest strength? When you think about those 4 choices I put on the screen before this one, courage, authenticity, grace, and love, which one is your greatest strength? How can you leverage that to lead more effectively and be confident in who you really are? That's a question for you. If you don't know the answer, write it down. It's okay. Which of the 4 choices needs the most attention? Mine's grace, courage, authenticity, grace, and love. Which one do you struggle with the most? Now, the next thing that I want you to do, and I really, really need you to do this, write down one thing you can do differently within the next 24 hours. And I'm going to ask you all for a couple examples. I'm going to give you about 1.5 minutes on this again. It might be someone you need to apologize to. It might be a conversation you need to have. It might be a leap you need to take. What is one thing that you can do differently to be courageous love in action in the next 24 hours? Write it down. That was bossy, wasn't it? It's all for you though, so it's okay. It's okay to be directive if it's for you. Oh. Okay. Can anybody give me an example? Just give me 2 examples of what you wrote down. 2 people. Come on. I believe in you. What are you going to do differently in the next 24 hours? Yes, Tiffany. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just lost my mom a couple of weeks ago, and I need to somehow find a way to give myself some grace. And in the next 24 hours, I'm going to apologize to myself for falling short and for beating myself up for not reaching my goals, because I have a really, really good reason why I feel the way I feel right now.
That's beautiful. And maybe I'll take you out for lunch and we'll figure that out, because you deserve that apology to yourself. I've always wanted to know you better. Brittany, you had your hand up. Are you ready to share?
I was actually just Tiffany clapping for Tiffany.
Oh, yeah, that was
some praise for Tiffany there.
That was amazing.
Marilyn said, take control of my online channel call.
Awesome. Very good. Well, I said 2, you guys delivered. This is what I'd like to ask now. If you choose to, for some added accountability, I'd like you to do whatever you wrote on your piece of paper in the next 24 hours. And if you want to, you may email me at kristal@bossygirl.org, and I will give you some kudos and recognition. The other thing I wanted to say before we close, which we have to do shortly, is that I'd love for you to be a part of what I am doing and what Leadership Global is doing. If you would log on at some point to bossygirl.org, you could get a fun hat, or there's all kinds of fun things that you could do there. And the other thing I would ask is, Donna is here today, and I try to give away as much time as I can for free, basically. But what I'd ask for you is, if you wouldn't mind, put your email address in the chat so that we can follow up with you later, and I can let you know when the book comes out. I almost never email. I promise this is not a weekly thing, but if you would put your email in the chat, we can let you know when the book's coming out, and I'd love to stay in touch with you. If there's nothing else, I know we have to close. Keep on keeping on. We're redefining Bossy for leaders of today and tomorrow. And Linda, I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much, Kristal. What an wonderful, wonderful redefinition of the word bossy. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us for the benefits of being bossy as a woman in leadership with Kristal Murren. She is the president of Bossy Girl Leadership, who is redefining bossy to mean courageous love in action. And I'm Linda Fisk. As the CEO of Leadership Global, it would be my privilege and honor to connect with any of you that want to learn more about our incredibly supportive, private, confidential community that is dedicated to maximizing your personal brand, raising your profile, and expanding your influence. If you're interested in learning more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. And again, big thanks to Kristal Murren,